Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast. Our primary objective is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never quit. The reality of life is simple. We all fall. We all fail. At times, we get knocked down. The question is, do we get back up? Are we stronger? Are we better prepared to attain the maximum of our potential? Thank you for joining our No Quit tribe. As you go for your greatness today, never quit. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. Welcome to episode number 357 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is getting better. Our quote of the day comes to us from Frank Peretti. Don't worry about getting perfect, just keep getting better. If your team, school, or company could use a culture checkup, we would love it if you grabbed a copy of our new book, The Positivity Tribe in the Locker Room. You can grab a copy at Amazon or wherever else books are sold, or you can just head on over to thepositivitytribe.com. I've been looking forward to today's episode for quite some time. Ironically, our guest today played collegiate lacrosse at the Naval Academy on the same team as my cousin Craig. If you are interested in culture, leadership, hard work, or getting better, you will love to hear what Erik Kapitulik has to share with us today. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Erik, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm excited about being here today.
I appreciate it. First question I ask everybody is, are you ready to positively impact at least one person today?
Boy, I'm ready. I hope I do.
Now, I'm sure this question will hit you with probably 20 different answers based on your career. I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing a no-quit story with the audience, or perhaps a really challenging time personally or professionally where you could have given up or given in, but you didn't.
You know, it's interesting. One of my earliest childhood memories is of my mom talking to me about quitting and saying, the first time you do it will be the most difficult. After that, it gets easier, and you never want it to get easy. And that has stayed with me my entire life. And I am so incredibly scared of quitting, because the first time I say I quit, that will be the most difficult. And if I do it once, then that means there will be a time in the future that I'm going to do it again. And then it starts to become a habit. So the question of, have there been challenging times in my life? Look, that's a relativity scale, right? I was born with a dad and a mom who both loved me dearly. And even if they didn't give me everything I wanted, I had everything I needed, to include love and guidance. That right there, read any sort of human psychology, physiology books. If you have that, not even a mom and dad, if you have just one of those, but two is better. If you have that, then your chance of success in life is in a different stratosphere than people who don't. So I was very fortunate. With that said, of course, I've had challenging times in my life, whether that be things that were thrust upon me, like COVID, while running a business, having people depend on that business to pay for their mortgages and feed their families, and having to make such difficult decisions, challenging decisions during COVID. The death of loved ones, things like that. I was involved in a helicopter crash when I was in the Marine Corps, and 6 of the 10 of us on board the helicopter, 6 of my Marines lost their lives. Chris, we all have things in our life that are incredibly challenging. Some more than others, absolutely. But now I've failed at plenty of stuff. But I don't really remember a time that I just quit at it.
I think that is such a remarkable story that you shared about your mother, and I think not to diminish it, but the simplicity of what she shared with you is something that I think our audience and our listeners, they'll definitely appreciate, because I appreciate how she talks about the first time being difficult and then it gets easier, and then you don't ever want it to get easier. And I love that mindset. Wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind just telling our listeners a little bit about the work you do at the program, because I think it's fascinating.
Thanks for the question. The program is a team building and leadership development company. We have one mission: develop better leaders and create more cohesive teams. That's all we do. Develop better leaders and create more cohesive teams. We do so through a number of different services. I give a keynote presentation about leadership and attacking adversity. We provide experiential leadership development training for our clients based on our experiences serving in the military and in special operations units, et cetera. We then do classroom-based training, and we go and do consulting services on site with clients throughout the country. That's who we are. That's what we do.
I think it's fascinating how you take what you learned in the military, and not only in the classroom, but what you do with sports teams. I think it's fascinating. Just out of curiosity, what was it that led you from your military career into creating the program? Because I think it's just so interesting to me how there's so many similarities in what you do for all areas of life, not sports only, not military, not business only. And I'm just curious, what got you down the road to doing this?
Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, I would say that the military certainly was a huge experience of my life. I know we'll talk about it here in a little bit, but in the program book that myself and co-author Jake McDonald wrote, uh, we highlight that all of us, whoever we are a sum of our experiences. And yes, the military is a huge experience and one that I'm very grateful for, meaning the Marine Corps. But before that, it was the Naval Academy. And before that, it's being a lifelong athlete and adventurer and all of those experiences, climbing mountains and adventure racing, playing, being fortunate enough to play college, be a college athlete. And then certainly growing up with, as I said earlier, a mom and a dad and on a farm. And now the experience of being a husband and father, all of those things, we're all a sum of those experiences. And I draw from all of them. My teammates and I, we draw from all of them with the work that we do. And for us, the basis of it, Chris, and just our belief is that individuals and individual talent, it can do well. You can do well just based on that. I mean, individuals and individual talent, it does win games. Great teams compete for championships on any battlefield. Whether we're talking about great athletic teams, great families, great corporations, great schools, great anything. Great teams compete for championships. And on those teams, we fill one of two roles: teammate and or team leader. And the great teams, the world-class teams, yes, you must have talent. But there's lots of teams that have that. The great teams, the world-class teams, the championship caliber teams, they've got talent and they have great teammates and great team leaders. Men and women who have chosen to be great teammates and great team leaders for one another.
I think that's such a powerful point. And in sports, I think we can look at over the last 10 years in all the major sports, there are so many teams that have amazing individual players, to your point, and some of the best individually talented players, but not the best teams because they don't play together. And I think, to your point, being a great teammate, in my definition, is very different than being the best. And I think that goes into all areas of life.
Chris on that note, look at the men's, look at college lacrosse this year, right? Who are the two teams that took the fewest number of transfers?
The two that played.
The two that played for the national championship this year.
Yeah. So expanding on that for a second, do you believe then too in that it's because of the way that they're built around being the best teammates? Because I'm not going to speak for I'm not a professional lacrosse analyzer, but I do believe if you took the top 10 teams that competed in the NCAA tournament this year for lacrosse, there's not a big difference in the top two being just unbelievably that much better with talent. But to your point, watching a bunch of the tournament as I did, I think it was the little things that they did just to a much better level in regards to being the best teammates and having guys that were on the team for 2, 3, and 4 years.
Exactly. And let's not even talk about lacrosse. Look really at any sport, right? I mean, think about NCAA basketball this year, right? I mean, crazy that you had two number one seeds in the men's basketball tournament playing each other. That never happens, right? The two teams that at the beginning people said, these are the two best teams in the country, they're going to play against each other, that they actually did, right? And did do that. And whether that's men's college lacrosse, men's basketball, women's soccer, softball, whatever you want to say, that, again, teams need talent. If you don't have people who can, shoot a lacrosse ball really hard or pick one up, you're not going to be real successful. Play defense, whatever it might be. And that's any sport, right? Even more so during times of adversity. It's ultimately your team's culture. Whether that culture is whether that team is your family, your school, your corporate team, your athletic team. Ultimately, it's your team's culture that allows you to flourish. And think of how many teams have unbelievable talent and they win a lot of games. It allows you to win a lot of games. But if your culture isn't world-class, your team never will be, even if you have world-class talent on it. You will not be able to consistently compete for championships if you don't also, along with that world-class talent, have a world-class culture. Have a team full of dudes or dudettes who are going to make a commitment to be great teammates and great team leaders for one another.
Speaking of your book, which is fantastic, by the way, and as I said to you, I've recommended to a bunch of people. One of the things in your book is determining core values, and I know sometimes people call them term tenets or different things, but was that a military thing that you took, or was it something that you built within your own company that you wanted to bring out?
Some of the things, being again, where some of our experiences at this point, we've been in business for 14 years. So, some of the things in the book, we actually had to call around to people that we've said, hey, I think I got this from you. And I don't want to take credit for it, but did I think of this or was this your stuff that you told us about? Right. And I think when it was first really brought to my attention and the importance of it was at the Naval Academy is what are our values at the Marine in the Marine Corps. Duty, honor, country. That is when I was first it was really highlighted to me that, hey, look, at the end of the day, you be this. You represent this. And if you can, you're going to have a wonderful time here. And if you can't, get out. That idea, I think the Naval Academy and then the Marine Corps is the first time I was really, I experienced that. Then afterwards with the program, we've just had a number of different people who we've come in contact with early on. And I think because of my experiences in the Naval Academy and the Marine Corps, and then interacting with individuals, a gentleman used to be the commandant of Norwich up in Vermont, who interacted with us. Of course, his name's slipping my mind right now, but the point is, I do think I talk about him in the book, or give him credit for this in the book, but all of these things, and then through your own experiences, seeing it with my family and all the teams that we're privileged to work with, Chris, ultimately, it's mission critical for you to determine and define what you stand for, what it means to be one of us. Now, at the program, it's selfless, tough, and disciplined. And I don't mean to say that selfless, tough, and disciplined has to be, we were talking Kansas basketball before this. I'm not saying that's the right answer for that's the right answer for them or anybody else. It's the right answer for us. But that's who we are. And if you're it, you're going to love working at the program. And if you're not, get out. That's the way we do it. And being that you figure that most people value system is set by the age of 12. If I get somebody who's 35 years old who comes to work with us, who's not selfless, tough, and disciplined, the chance of me changing it, the chance of all of us changing it, it's about zero. Now, that doesn't mean that we fire everybody who isn't. No, we'll work with people. That's why we have standards that reinforce our core values. But you can be super talented, but if you don't consistently meet and exceed our standards, our daily standards that reinforce our core values, okay, you can't be a member of our team. And by the way, Chris, I mean, it's a two-way street. When people are not selfless, tough, and disciplined in the program's sense, and or embody the core values of so many great world-class organizations with whom we work, it's a two-way street. No, the organization doesn't like them very much. Yeah, and guess what? They don't like the organization very much either. So, I mean, it's a two-way street. When you have a really strong culture, yeah, there are people who are going to leave it.
You know, that's a really powerful point, and I like how you spoke about it works for you and it's your core values. And sometimes, you know, if it's not going to work, you know, that person needs to leave. And I think that's in the book a little bit where you talk about having, you know, the wrong people in your team or your company or organization. And I think that could be so negative in so many ways. One thing in the book that you and I spoke offline about, but the idea of work hard is one more. I think that's just, it's fantastic. And I wanted you to just kind of touch on how that came about and what that really means to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's our trademark saying, even though, you know, we've got Gatorade who stole it 10 years ago. And I think Powerade did a couple of years, which is a whole different story. But that is when you talk about, where did you get something from? I take pride in that because every 14 years I get one good idea. And when I was thinking about when you start your own company, getting back to values, by the way, and what you stand for, the leader determines it. The leader determines what we stand for here. Mom and dad determine what we stand for as a family, as an example, right? And when I really thought about me and what has made me successful, and then what I would expect that would make our company successful, is being selfless, being tough, and being disciplined. And within that, though, always you got to work hard. There truly is. I mean, not to be a host of cliches here, but there truly is no substitute for hard work. I mean, just accept that fact. If you're going to be successful, however you determine successful, whatever that term means to you, we all have very different definitions of that. But whatever it means to you, yeah, hard work is a non-negotiable. It's mission critical. But then how do we define hard work? So many people talk about giving effort as an example. Well, man, I work so hard at my job. Oh my God, practice. We work so hard at practice. That's a relative term, though, because, I mean, this is America. It's a capitalistic society. To quote one of our clients, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you earn. it's done on hard work is a relative basis. It's not did you work hard today? It's did you outwork the guy who wants to pin you? Did you outwork the softball team? Not the teams that don't have any talent. No, what about the teams that are standing in the way of you and winning your softball World Series? I mean, or insert sport name, insert company name. You didn't work hard today. Did you outwork your biggest competitor? And even if your biggest competitor very often is yourself, or most dangerous competitor, is one more. Do what you say you're going to do. Yeah, work extremely hard at practice. And then stay after her for 6 minutes and work on that part of your game you're not good at. At work, you don't like doing cold calls. Great. At the end of the day, commit to something, right? I mean, I don't know what the right answer is for you. I mean, we got to be great teammates and great team leaders on all the teams of which we're privileged to be a part, to include, I think, most importantly, our families. So, I mean, I don't know, can you, at the end of your workday, can you commit to an additional hour and still be a great teammate and great team leader on your family? And by the way, commit to doing it each and every single day. If you can, great. You know your life. But I know that we can all commit to, I don't know, 6 minutes, 11 minutes, right? We don't do sets of 5, 10, 15. I mean, we got to do one more and everything. But can you commit to 6 minutes of additional cold calls every day? And they add up. And that's what ends up being the difference between world-class teams and really good ones, world-class individuals and really good ones.
That was a part in the book that, as I shared before, that really stood out to me. But something that you just said, I want to echo because I hope the listeners take it, is you talked about a very specific activity of cold calling. So anybody that's in sales or any type of business, what you didn't say was, can you commit to 17 more hours after you're done? When you're done cold calling, can you now, spend the next, day and a half and don't go home? You said, can you do an extra 6 minutes? And it's something that I always challenge my clients with, is not so much just the concept of one more, but doing extra. And I think it also relates and correlates to the gym as well, where people are doing sets of 10, or they finish their workout and it's like, all right, can you do one more? And I know so many people that say, well, my workout said, 5 sets of 5 and that's it. And then it's like, okay, I'm done. And I always want to, and I struggle personally with not only my clients, but friends, where I want to kind of, shake their shoulders and be like, okay, I understand that your program or your coach or your trainer, said a set of 5, but could you do one more rep? And for me, it's not so much about doing one more and everything and, never stopping. Cause like you said, you have families and other things, but I just struggle with that one more. And I struggle with when I have clients or friends that are like, well, they said, just do, 12 minutes of cardio at the end of the workout. And I'm like, well, let's just, do a couple minutes more. And it's like, no, because the workout said 12 minutes and that's it. So how do you compartmentalize that? But more importantly, how would you recommend for me or any of the listeners to translate that to a friend, a colleague, a coworker, where you don't come off as a tyrant, but instead you come off as someone trying to help them, but also inspiring them to do just a little bit more? Because to your point, it does add up.
Yeah. And Chris, it's a great question. And I really intentionally try to stay in interviews like this. I almost, because of my background and maybe just physical appearance, I intentionally try to stay away from the gym analogy, because I think people will automatically make it, well, doing one more, yeah, makes sense for athletes. What makes sense if you're in the gym. And the idea of doing one more, it's really a mindset of get better. And ultimately, I believe that's the meaning of life. Get better. And yes, if you're an athlete, okay, become the best athlete that you can become. Yeah, but at the same time, what are you doing to be the best teammate that you can be, the best team leader on all the teams? Okay, you're a great, like for me, Okay, great athlete, beat your wife. Great athlete, don't ever see your kids, don't raise your kids. Okay, well, that's not, to me, that wouldn't be my definition of success. Or make an incredible amount of money in business and insert those examples I just used with the athlete, right? Make an incredible amount of money in business, but never see your family. Don't raise your kids. Have somebody else doing it for you. Being a bad partner to your wife, that wouldn't be my definition of success either in life. If we're going to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be, then what that will entail is for us to get better every single day of our lives. And that might mean physically, that might mean uh, picking up a new language, learning a new language. It might be, how about this? Read a newspaper that you don't agree with. Read a book whose opinion you don't believe with. Like, understand. It's shocking to me in America that I don't think most Americans understand that if their only media that they're receiving is on Twitter and social media, I don't know if they understand that they're getting fed more of the things that just they want to see. Like, I don't think they understand that. It's shocking to me. So if you're going to be well read, understand a problem, an issue, it can't be off of social media. You're just getting fed more information that you already agree with. So when we talk about getting better, it means doing one more doesn't mean what necessarily. It could, to your point, Chris, and it is for me when I'm at the gym to do one extra rep, right? One extra sprint or something like that. But okay, how about as a dad? Put your phone away one one time, right? Like make a commitment to just put your phone completely away every day when you go home. Just stay focused on your family. Do one more time playing with your kids. I mean, it's everywhere in life. It really is a mindset of, hey, let's get better every day.
There was just some amazing points you shared, and I appreciate that. And one thing that you just shared really stood out to me is not just what you're seeing on social media, but it reminds me of the people that feel one way or the other in a specific political opinion, and what they do is they watch that one station over and over again. That's all they hear. And you wonder why they have arguments or fights at work when they're feeding themselves is 24/7, over the top, anti, Biden or anti-Trump. And you're like, well, I wonder why Erik's, not listening to me, because he's listening to, the station every day, and he doesn't take a perspective on what the other person or the other party. And you said something too about reading a book. I forget who said it, but I was at a conference a couple of years ago, and the speaker was talking about how every year he tries to do a couple things totally outside of his comfort zone. And what he shared was, for example, he didn't like fiction books. So what he did every year is he picked one fiction book and he read it. One of them was Harry Potter, and then he talked about what you just said is somebody that he didn't agree with. He went ahead and read a book or an autobiography about that person. And I think the thing that people miss is it doesn't mean that you change your opinion and you say, okay, well, now I read this book about fill in the blank and I'm their number one fan, but it means that you can understand somebody else's opinion or thought process. And I think that goes into what you just shared about Get Better so much, because it's not about changing other people. It's about having a conversation where at the end of a conversation, you and I should be able to say, I don't agree with what Erik said. I'm not changing my political party or whatever, but I totally understand his point of view. And now I understand why he felt X, Y, Z. And I think that goes into the idea of getting better.
Chris, we talked that word right there that you used is key, right? Which is understanding. So you believe X, I believe Y. You're a Democrat, I'm a Republican, vice versa. You believe in this social issue, I believe in that social issue. I think one of the absolute, there's a host of reasons why I hate social media, but one of them is that if that's where you're getting all of your information from, and you're seeing other people who are on social media, many people, not all, but many, is it is creating this environment that if you believe X and I believe Y, I have to not like you for some reason. I have to think that you're a bad person. Why is that? That's ridiculous. I mean, for your listeners who are at home right now or driving or wherever they may consume this content, ask yourself this: what's more important to you? Gaining a better understanding or proving yourself right? If it's the latter, if it's proving yourself right, stop listening. Stop. I mean, how often do you find yourself screaming and yelling about an issue? I look at somebody screaming and yelling about an issue, delete. Mental and emotional, nothing. Screaming and yelling, trying to prove yourself right. Delete. Let's have a conversation. I'm going to ask you thoughtful questions that I hope appear thoughtful so that I can gain a better understanding of your position. And I hope you do the same with me. And I'm going to give you my transparent answers. And at the end of that, the outcome of this conversation, the outcome of me reading an article, reading a book that I may or may not, or that I intentionally do not agree with. To your point, it's got nothing to do with right and wrong. It's okay, I have a better understanding now. And if we can all understand each other better, then getting back to what I think is the meaning of life, we as individuals, as a society, as individuals, as a family, our schools, our companies, our societies will get better. Utopia, it's not an option, okay? It's never happened, but better certainly should be.
You know, we could probably go down a rabbit hole on social media because I think we're very similar in some of our opinions within that based on what you said. But something that stood out and it bothers me is this hatred towards if I feel something different than you on social media, like you shared, I need to now hate Erik and I need to detest what he stands for. And I think where people miss, and I just echoing what I said before, is it doesn't mean you have to love that person's opinion. It doesn't mean you have to change your opinion, but it sure as heck does not mean you have to hate the person. And I'm going to botch the quote by Maya Angelou, I believe, but hate has caused a lot of problems, but has never solved one. I believe that's one of her famous quotes. And I posted that on social media during this past challenging year, and I got a bunch of comments back. But it's one of those quotes that I think is so powerful because it's so true. What hate does is it leads to more hate. It, magnifies the hatred, the fear and everything. It doesn't do anything positive. And I think for me, what you said, and I hope our listeners take it, is gain a better understanding or proving yourself right. That's a fantastic question. I think I'm going to steal and put it in a book at some point.
Probably stole it from somebody too. If it's good, I stole it from somebody too, Chris.
That's, I think it's on that subject. I think it's funny and honor to you because you've shared a bunch of things that you got from other people. I find it funny, we're talking about social media, is that people take other people's ideas and quotes and they put it as theirs. And then if they're interviewed, it's like, oh yeah, this is my opinion. And you say, well, wasn't that quote first said like 200 years ago? I'm pretty sure, it wasn't you, but I think it's awesome that you share credit or you give credit, excuse me, to people, because I think too many people don't do that. And I think it's important to share. And I talk about this all the time. If I were selling my information for $100 and I was going to keep, or I could only keep what was mine and I had to give out royalties to other people, I'd be keeping like $9 out of that $100 and I have to pay out $91 because I've taken so many amazing pieces from so many people over the years.
Absolutely.
So I want to switch lanes here for a second, if you're okay with it. We call our hot seat questions, and the only request we have of you is you spit out the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Last meal, you can pick absolutely anything. What do you pick?
Maryland blue crab.
What is your favorite smell?
Oh, clean baby.
We have well, over 300 episodes. We've not gotten that. I love that. What is your
Grass is a close second.
what is your all-time favorite sport?
To play or to watch?
Either or.
Okay, play basketball, watch football.
Do you have an all-time favorite team?
Well, it's funny because my son now he's 9, and it's funny. It seems like his age and now people they like players more than they like teams. And I think it might be. I have no idea if this is the case. I think it might be because players move so much now.
100%.
So I think that's why they may not be dialed into a team. I'm not sure. For me, when I grew up, though, come on, Larry Legend, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, the Boston Celtics, New England Patriots, right? I mean, I was old enough to remember when the Pats went 1-14 and was still there, like rooting for them. So any Boston teams, Bruins, Celtics, the Red Sox, that's well, at the pro level, those are my guys.
All-time favorite movie?
I'd probably have to say The Big Lebowski.
Do you have an all-time favorite book?
Well, that is a softball for me. Yeah, the program book, the one I wrote, just because it's such a love, just because that thing is like a baby to me. Outside of the program book, the one I wrote, I don't have a favorite book because there are. I'm a voracious reader. I read constantly, and in this past year, there are books that have changed my life. In this past year, I extrapolate that back to when I first, I probably have read more after college, which doesn't say much about my college academic experience, but and so many books that The Killer Angels, I had to put the book down when I finished it because I was emotionally drained after reading The Killer Angels, right? This past year, Conscious Business by Fred Kaufman. I mean, I could not recommend it anymore. Think Again, just unbelievable. Think Again. So I'd be doing people a disservice by I just feel like getting back to getting better. There's a number of different ways you do that. Of course, there's not just one way you do it, and I believe it should not just be in one area. It should be the holistic approach here, right? But man, one very inexpensive way to do it is to read. And when people say, "Well, I don't have time," I say, "All right, well, write down on a piece of paper how much time you spent yesterday watching TV. Write down on a piece of paper how much time you spent on social media. Write down on a piece of paper how much time you spent playing video games." Okay, do you still want to tell me that you don't have time to read? Just those 3 things. So anyway, I just feel like it's mission critical. If you are going to be the best version of yourself, read voraciously, read things you like reading, authors that you agree with, read authors you don't agree with.
I think that is so powerful, and I'm curious for your answer to this one. Do you have an all-time favorite quote?
Rudyard Kipling, all of Gunga Din is pretty powerful. The Man in the Arena, pretty powerful. But if I had to say anything, it would be Jack London. I would rather be ashes than dust.
That's powerful. And what is that one song, no matter whenever you hear it, you automatically tune it up and rock out to it?
It's probably a lot. I think I'm going to have to say "Knocking on Heaven's Door" by the Guns N' Roses version, live in Wembley Stadium. I mean, my son and I, we hear that, we crank that baby up. He plays drums, I play guitar. Man, that's a great song.
Who sings?
No, we're both such bad singers. Neither one of us sings that. We let Axel. My son's name is Axel, not after Axl Rose. That's another story. But we let Axl Rose have the honors of that.
That is awesome. And then for our listeners that want to connect with you or follow you or find out more about not only the program, what you do, but also get a copy of your book, what's the best way for them to do so?
Well, our book can be found at barnesandnoble.com. It can be found on amazon.com. It can also be found along with all the other information about the program, our services, how to sign up for our monthly letters on leadership. All of that information can be found at the program website, which is theprogram.org.
And then last question I have for you is the same question I have for everybody, is if you have any parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners today.
Well, first, you're very good at what you do.
Thank you.
But let me talk about one thing that we were starting to we talked about, and then we moved on to a different question, and we just moved on. And it gets back to not quitting. The only thing that I've ever done in my life that's hard, truly by that definition of hard, is one time when I was still in the Marine Corps, I was asked to go and tell a mom, that her son had just died in Iraq. I had to go there, ring the doorbell, and wait for this woman, Leah Hall, to answer the door so I could tell her that her son had just died. There were no other options. I owed it to her son, who I never met, but as a fellow Marine, I owed it to him. And as the parents of that Marine, I owed it to them. And any Marine would agree with that. I had to do it. I had to stand there, ring the doorbell, and then wait, knowing that when that door got answered, I was going to ruin that mother's life. And any parent will know that's what you're doing. And there was no other option. That's the only thing in life I've ever done that's, I believe, is hard. All the other things, climbing Mount Everest, the Naval Academy, the Marines, special operations, all the Ironmans, all of that stuff is not hard. It's challenging. And warriors love a challenge. We love it. COVID, I love it. Adversity, what a great opportunity for us to get better. Usually, we have to go and seek out discomfort as a means of getting better. We have to go and seek out things outside of our comfort zone as a means of growing as individuals and as a team. How wonderful is COVID? We got given the opportunity to have that challenge thrust upon us. But warriors love a challenge. It's an opportunity for us to get better, to prove just how great a teammates and great a team leaders we are. Because of that, if you have that mindset, then if you have a sick or the death of a loved one, by all means, and you want to call that hard, a sick child at home, whatever it might be, you'll never get an argument out of anybody at the program. That's heartbreakingly hard things in life, no doubt. But stop talking about your hard practice, your hard day at work, hard meeting, hard workout. Instead, think of them as challenging, because warriors love to be challenged. And if we start thinking about things as such, we'll start talking about them as such. And if we're talking about them as such, then instead of getting through the things that are hard, we're going to attack a challenge. That's it.
I think that's a perfect way to end today's episode. I truly, truly appreciate it. And for our listeners, I highly recommend grabbing a copy of the book, The Program. And if you're not following or don't know about the program, make sure you check it out. And I hope that you and I can connect again soon.
Bruce, thanks so much for having me here today. I really had a good time speaking with you and your audience. I hope they found it impactful. I hope it inspired one of them.
Thank you for listening to episode number 357. Erik touches on some very powerful things with us today. I hope you paid attention, but more importantly, I hope you take action. In his parting words, Erik shared how warriors love a challenge. I know that our No Quit listeners are all warriors, and I challenge each and every one of you to embrace whatever challenge you are currently facing. The challenge could very well be your next and biggest opportunity to get better. The only question is, will you? And remember, we rise by lifting others up.
And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.